Did you know that 90% of the world's millionaires invest in real estate? Well, I'm Angel with the Academy Presents Real Estate Investing Rocks, and I'm here to help you if you want to go for your piece of that pie.
Well, and I think really focusing on the process, that's a really I
Mhm.
like that because I think that as a society, we're trained to make lists and check things off. And
Yeah.
so when you can't check it off, and I I mean I am very guilty of just putting stuff from one day's list to the next day's list to the next day's list to the next day's list, knowing I'm not going to do better tomorrow. I'm not going to do it tomorrow. I didn't want to do it today.
Mm.
And instead
Yeah.
of saying that I need to do something to make this something I will do, such as viewing it as a process as opposed to an entire thing I don't want to do,
Yeah.
that, that could help because then at least you see forward motion instead of seeing that I haven't gotten any of the 12-week curriculum done on mindset that I need to have done within the next 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, it's a perfect example that if you have a 12-week curriculum that you're either creating or going through or whatever the case is, it's one thing to say, did I get the 12-week curriculum done? That's just a yes or a no. But that isn't really helpful because throughout the whole process, you're making progress, but you're not done until you're done, right? And so the answer is always going to be no. But if it's like, did I get the first video done? Or did I get the transcript ready just for this one? Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I could do that in the next like 40 minutes. I don't have to finish the whole thing, but I'm making progress. Take the big goal and break it down into steps, break it down into a process. If you have this goal and it's one thing and you break it down into a 20-step thing, each step is very manageable. But you don't focus on step 11 when you're on step 2. You just focus on step 2. You only ever have one thing to do at a time, the next thing. That's the only thing you ever have to do. And people get overwhelmed because they focus on all the steps. But we don't need to do that. We can't do that. You can do it, but then you won't make any progress, or you can just focus on one thing at a time and you'll get through it and you'll enjoy it. And you mentioned having a to-do list. I find that this is true for almost everybody I speak with. If everyone were to look at their to-do list, whether it be physical, if you have one, or like a metaphorical one in your mind, you have all these things to do. Where are you on your to-do list? It's like on your list, where's April? And then on somebody else, where's Matt? Where's Cindy? Where's John? Like, where are you on your to-do list? Meaning self-care, meaning taking care of you, me time. Where is that? Because for most people, that doesn't exist.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because we think that for whatever reason, the most important thing in your life is you, because you are your life. And if you don't take care of you, you can't take care of other people, whether it's your kids or your husband or someone else who's listening, their friends or their spouse or their boyfriend, girlfriend, or whoever it is. If you're not taking care of you, you're going to burn out. So if you have a gift, if you've got a platform, if you've got something that you want to give the world, you want to contribute in some way, and you want to do it over a long period of time, sustainably, you only do that by taking care of yourself. If you've got kids, if you've got a spouse, if you've got people that count on you, if you're not taking care of you, if you're not filling up your cup first, you burn out. And then you can't be who you could be for them the way they need you to be. And so, when we have this, many of my clients I've been working with recently, they are entrepreneurs and business owners. And if they fall into this trap that we typically do as a society, like you said, the list, and we're crossing it off and we're trying to be productive and we're getting a lot done, so many of them have burnout. And I'll say to them, do you have fun in your business? And they'll look at me like, no. I actually had a client tell me today, 0. And she goes, actually, -0. Is that a thing? And she was like, -0. And this idea that, do you have fun? Are you inspired? Do you feel alive by what you're doing? And if not, that doesn't mean throw it away. It could mean that, or it might mean, there is so many aspects about this that really do inspire me that I do feel alive with, but maybe I've disconnected from them. Maybe I'm not doing those things as much. Maybe I've kind of bogged myself down with the small energy draining things, and I'm not giving back to myself. So creating time on your calendar, making space for you to do things that rejuvenate you, for self-care. These are all habits. When you give back to yourself, you fill up your cup, you refresh your spirit in that sense. You show up so much more powerfully for your family, for your business, for your community. But when we don't do that, now think of it like this. I always use this example. If I've got my thermos here and I've got all this water in here, and now let's say I keep giving, people want it, so I'm dumping it out, I'm giving it away, and now I have less and less water. Well, I need to give some to me too. So every now and then I take a little sip, and now it's even less, and then I keep giving and giving and giving, and eventually there's barely any left. But the same amount of people, if not more, they keep asking, whether it's a partner, kids, business, community, whatever it is, there's all these responsibilities. And if we're not careful, those will keep going up because we keep adding, because we think if I add more, maybe I'll be happy. If I add more, maybe that's what it'll take. And so we don't have enough left to give, and we experience burnout. So then now we can't be who we need to be for ourselves, and we can't be who we need to be for them. But then add into that, because we've burned out, let's say we're not taking care of ourselves, now our attention span isn't as great with our family and loved ones. We're not as present when we're with them. Maybe we get snappy or angry more quickly because our fuse is shorter. Maybe we're at business and something doesn't work out, and rather than learning from it and being with it, we get defeated and we throw in the towel early and we get stressed out because it's not working and we get overwhelmed. All that's happening because our bandwidth is so small. But if we open it up by giving ourselves space for that self-care, if we take care of ourselves, if we prioritize ourselves, that's the thing. It's like, you're the number one priority in your life. The question becomes, do your actions reflect that? Does your schedule reflect that? Does your calendar reflect that? If it doesn't, that's the problem. And if we can solve that, we show up as a better version of ourselves. So some people think that, oh, that sounds selfish. There's nothing selfish about self-care. Self-care is the most loving thing you can do for you and for everyone in your life. Because you're not of use to anyone on the plane when the mask drops if you try to put it on everybody else and then you pass out in the process. Now their mask isn't on and your mask isn't on, and now you're going to die. You got to take care of you first. Otherwise, you can't take care of anybody else. That doesn't mean, obviously, neglect other people. There's a balance to it. But as you look at your schedule, as you look at your day, what am I doing for me? Like, what am I doing to give back to me? What's that moment of mental relaxation, mental release? What's that moment of laughter? What's that moment of peace that I carve out for me? If I don't have that, that's going to wear on anybody.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'll say, that like we did 75 hard and then we did phase 1, and I think that a lot of people do it for the mental toughness and the fitness part of it, but really it forced me to get outside for 45 minutes a day and take some time for me. And was I more productive? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was no alcohol a big player in that? Probably. I mean, I know that like my whip was a little faster.
Yeah. How did you feel also during those times, 45 minutes outdoors? Mentally, emotionally, how's your well-being?
Well, some days it was great. Some days, if it was raining outside and the requirement still is that you get your butt out there in the rain, you do it anyway. I mean, those days weren't so fun. When I was cold and wet and unhappy, but I still got it done.
Yeah. Something to point out. When you were a kid, did you ever like to kind of like play in the rain?
I mean, yeah, a little bit. It was fun to splash around in the puddles.
Yeah. Was that available to you at that time?
Yeah, I stepped in a big old puddle and it was like 40 degrees outside. And so then I was like, well, hell, I might as well put the other foot in too, so at least they're even.
And that's my point, because this is the thing. A lot of people treat their life in a very reactionary way, and they think, well, it's raining outside and I need to go for a walk. Or not, I choose to, but it's raining, so I can't have fun. or it's cold, so I can't have fun. But when we look back, it's like, yeah, when I was a kid, did I play in the rain and did I laugh and did I enjoy it? Yeah, but I maybe most people. Did I jump in puddles? Yeah, maybe. Did I care if my clothes got wet? It's like, no, I didn't at all. And then it's like, well, what's different? The only thing that's different, because that kid is still in us. We're still that kid. But you use the Shrek example of the onion. We have just piled on layers of the onion of seriousness, and we've taken life too seriously. There's that expression, I remember it just coming to mind right now. It's how come, why are angels able to fly? Because they take themselves lightly. And there's that same idea of, what if you took yourself lightly? What if you took your life lightly? Now, that doesn't mean not serious. You can take life seriously. You can take your business seriously without being serious. You can be very joyful and loving life while having an amazing business. People think, oh, like fun and play take away from business. Meanwhile, all the research on play shows that it makes you more effective, more efficient, more mentally sharp. You come up with better ideas. Your creativity goes through the roof. You solve problems faster. Play and fun is the greatest thing you can do for your business, as long as it's coupled with the effective action and doing what needs to be done. Now you're making progress, you're enjoying it, you're inspired, you're motivated. As a better version of you showing up. So in that same way, when you said might as well put the other foot in, if I know I'm going to go for a walk or a run and it's raining, I'm going to get wet. That's going to happen. So if I know that, might as well enjoy it. Might as well play with it. If it's, it's the winter right now, but if it's fall and you live in a place where there's piles of leaves, when you were a kid and you saw a pile of leaves, what did that mean? And it might mean like, I'm jumping into that. Like, it might mean fun, but you don't do it as an adult, and you might tell yourself some stories about why you don't do it. But if you did, you might find that really fun. I had a client back in the day, a couple years ago, who she got really serious and she was way too in her head. And so I wanted to create some fun for her. And I said, she would be walking around her neighborhood and there'd be sprinklers most places. And I'd say, when you were a kid, what happened when there were sprinklers? She's like, oh, I ran through them. And I was like, how was that? And she would laugh. And she's like, it was so fun. And I said, all right, next time you see a sprinkler and you catch yourself being in your head, like kind of not having fun, you have to go run through it. And it doesn't matter whose property it is, doesn't matter what's going on, you do that. And I get a message from her like 3 days later, laughing that she was beating herself up, having a rough day, and she was just in a negative headspace, and she happened to be walking by and the sprinkler goes off and she remembered our conversation and she was like, oh crap. And then she just ran into it. And right when she ran through it and immediately starts laughing. And then she's walking on the street after that and she's wet. And she's got this big smile on her face and she had some fun. And then she started doing that more and more. Something that simple. You don't have to jump into some sprinklers. That might not be you. But what is that version for you? What do you do that snaps you out of it? What can you do that just brings you back to this moment? That goes back to loving what is. It's like, yeah, my situation kind of sucks. Hey, it's a sprinkler. Let me run through that. And now you feel metaphorically, better. And then from this place, what's the next step I can take? The best next step. Life is a certain way right now. I want it to be different. What step can I do? What action can I take to begin to make that different? Whether it's a conversation that I could be having with a person, or an action that I could be taking in business, or it's something that I need to subtract from my business or from my life because it's draining me. But it's one day at a time, one step at a time, one meaningful decision at a time. Again, once you do that, life becomes so much more simple. When you do that, it becomes way more enjoyable, way less stressful. It's when we're trying to do everything at once, when we're trying to take 1,000-foot like leaps instead of one step at a time. That's what causes our problems.
And it's so easy to for me to be, oh, it's just my ADHD. I think big picture. I don't think details.
Mm-hmm.
But I could think details. I just don't like to.
Yeah. And notice, it's just my ADHD is similar to, oh, it's because of training. And I say that respectfully, that, different people who are listening to this have different, I don't know their stories, and they might have different conditions and they've got different life experiences. At the same time, be aware of when you're like outsourcing your power. You're projecting it out. You're giving it away. Some people give their power away to the rain. Oh, it's going to be a bad day because it's raining. Some people give their power away to their diagnosis. Some people give their power away. It's like someone might say, I have ADHD. And it's like, okay. But, you know, it's like Richard Branson and a lot of these billionaires are dyslexic, let's say. And they don't say, I can't be successful because I can't read. You know, they find a way to be successful anyway. And it's not a matter of whether it's difficult or not. It's that it's possible. So if somebody says, I have ADHD, it's like, all right, if that's true, because some people self-diagnose themselves with that and they don't actually have it. But let's say if they actually have it, all right. But there's people who are ADHD, who have ADHD, and they're still highly successful and they're happy. So you could be one of those people. So what would you like to do even though you have ADHD? But what would you like to do even though it's raining? What would you like to do even though COVID happened this year? What would you like to do even though the business isn't going well? Even though the economy is whatever it's at, depending on when you're listening to this. You can always do something. But when we buy into the story of limitation, I can't do X because of Y, it's almost never true. There are people who've got no arms and no legs, and yet they still find a way to somehow be athletes. You know, that's amazing. You know, one of my mentors shared the story with me that he was running a marathon, and it's called hold on, let me get the name. It's basically like the Marathon of the Sands. I'm blanking on the real name of it, but it's in the Middle East. And you basically run one marathon a day for 7 days in a row, except for I think day 5 where you run 2 marathons. And some people really like that. Clearly not you, but some people really like that.
I did a marathon. I made it to mile 17, and I'm a 2-minute run, 2-minute walker. And now I'm like 40 pounds heavier than that. But I had to walk in the last 9 miles. And my body was not pleased with me at the end of that.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I had all sorts of weird stuff going on.
Yeah. So imagine 7 days in a row, right? Of every day running one and then having one of them where you run 2 in a row without stopping. And this guy was on day 6, maybe day 7. And he was as close to giving up as you can get. Like he gave up. He threw in the towel. He's in the middle of the desert, feeling dehydrated, all this kind of stuff. And he sits down and he's like, I'm ready to give up. And he's going to like shoot his flare or whatever he needs to do to signify that he's going to give up. And all of a sudden this guy runs by him with a string in front of him, and he's got like a guide, and the guy is the one in the race and the guide is the one helping him because he's blind. Wow. And he's on day 7 of, at this point, he's run 8 marathons and he's in the middle of number 9. And it completely inspired this mentor of mine to think, wow, like if he can do this, like I can do this. And then he finished the race and he had a great conversation with the guy about how like that guy helped him so much. And I share it because as bad as we think things are for us, you know, there are people that have it so much worse. And I don't say that to take away from any of our individual experiences. Just because someone has it worse doesn't mean yours is any less valid. Your situation is what it is, and I respect that. But I also ask you to not dwell in it, because dwelling in it will never help you. Dwelling in it and complaining about it, and I'm just poor little me, only digs you deeper into the hole. It only makes you feel worse. It only takes away your power even more. It only has you buy into the story of limitation about why you can't have what you say you want. But if we were to say, all right, I'm going to feel what I'm feeling, I'm going to acknowledge it, but I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to journal about it. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to do whatever I got to do to let this emotion kind of pass through me. And then from this place, where do I want to be? And what's my best next step? What's the conversation I need to have? What's the action I need to take? What's the choice I need to make? And from that place, you love yourself, you're compassionate with yourself, you experience what you've got to experience, but you keep perspective. You know what? This could be a lot worse. You know what? Where's the silver lining? There's a blessing in disguise here. You know what? There's people who have this and they still are successful. So am I going to really lie to myself and say I can't be successful because I have A, B, and C? It's not true, because other people have it and they make it work. You know, if someone can do it, you can do it. It's just a matter of, do you want that kind of person? It's just a matter of, do we want to be that kind of person? Do we want to make that decision? And again, we're all free to make any decisions we want. If somebody wants to sit in shame and sit in blame and dwell, they're more than free to do that. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. But what I am here to do is hopefully inspire people to reconnect to their power and help them see that you're not alone, that we're all going through hardships, different versions of it. But there are other people that you can connect with that are probably going through something pretty similar. And that can be really helpful to realize that we're not alone, but also that this moment isn't going to last, that there will be happier times ahead. And the answer really comes down to just keep going. When you're on that journey, stopping and just dwelling on it doesn't help you. If you're going to stop, at least process the emotion and reflect on it and get something from it. Use it. Don't let it use you.
I like that. Use it, don't let it use you. It's kind of like that. Was it don't let your struggles can, it's like 3Ds. They can define you, or they can, I can't think of it right now, but it's like, don't let your struggles define you. That'll make you stronger. But it's much more eloquently said than that. But yeah, no, it's tough when you're in the middle of it. And I think back, and there's this guy I went to high school with, Ronnie Schultz. I don't even think he goes by Ronnie anymore. I think he goes by Ron, but I call him Ronnie because he's always gonna be Ronnie to me. Sitting in that chemistry class together, I will always remember him. And we were on Facebook on the Messenger a few years back, and just talking about our lives. And like, I want to say he's in Europe now, and he's like an independent contractor or something. He was in the military. I don't know if he still is, because I don't know. I don't want to, like, I don't know if he wants to share all that, and I'm not going to go digging in it. And so I just kind of leave it alone. But he said, I guess it's just as hard being me as it is being you. And it's something that's just stuck with me. And for a long time, it made me not want to share, because I knew that the things that were hard for me, other people were going through hard stuff too. But then I realized that if you don't share, then it's just harder, because then you feel like you're all alone.
Yes. Something that you said that really created this little metaphor in the moment for me that I think would be helpful to share. You said, it's tough, right? And I look at it like this. In the arena of life, every single one of us is a gladiator. Life is tough, and you're tough. And tough people do tough things. And they can handle it. And you can too. And you always have. That's all the proof you need. Every single one of us has gone through hardship. Some of us seemingly, it's not a competition, but if you look at it as degrees of hardship, some of us a lot more than others. Either way, we've all gone through something. We all have hardship. We've all survived it. We've all grown from it in some respect. As just like with don't let your problems define you, in the same way, your past is over. We can use our past, meaning pull the lessons from it, get stronger from it, get wiser from it, make sure you don't make any of the same, errors in judgment that you might think you've made in the past. But using your past to beat you up, like letting it use you, that's where I think a lot of people experience problems. And so if we realize we're all gladiators in this life, and if you don't feel like it, it's only because the way you're looking at life. When you're in that victim mode of dwelling and complaining and self-shaming and not really keeping perspective, it feels like poor little me. But when we really connect back to our power, and depending on the belief of the individual, there's a belief that I've always found so empowering, that God never gives you anything you can't handle. And if somebody were to believe that, assuming they have that religious belief, if somebody were to believe that, imagine how freeing that is. If you really believed that you're never given anything you can't handle, and that everything happens for a reason. You know, there's this Rumi quote. Rumi was a Sufi poet in Persia, and he was Persian, and he had this beautiful line where he said, I'm paraphrasing it, how do you expect, if you're a diamond or like a sapphire or some type of precious, you know, stone, how do you expect to be like shiny and polished if you're irritated by every rub? Like, in order to get polished, you need to be you need to be rubbed, and that rubbing might be abrasive, that rubbing might not be comfortable, but the diamond is only formed under pressure. You know, you diamond, you are this gladiator. Does the gladiator get strong because he or she just like sits in the sideline and just drinks all day? It's like, no, the gladiator gets strong by being in battle, in combat, by fighting, metaphorically, you know, the lions and the other opponents, which in this case would be the problems and the challenges and whatever comes up. And if you think of it as this is your valiant opponent, oh wow, here's something that I think is like really challenging that I can't handle. Wow, like life, God, universe, thank you so much for giving me this challenge that I get to rise to the occasion and get stronger from. This challenge is going to make me a better version of me if I let it. There's that expression that, you know, life keeps teaching us the same lessons until we learn them. You know, oftentimes people say, how come things like this keep happening to me? And it's like, because you haven't learned the lesson yet. You haven't learned it enough to shift your behavior and shift how you're showing up. Because once you do that, those same problems disappear because you're not the same kind of person. And so I just think from that place, life gives you these challenges, and that's what life is. You know, in Buddhism, that they might say, you know, life is suffering. But then another part of it is there is an end to suffering. Like there is a way out. And it has to do with what we talked about in the beginning of the conversation about happiness and about loving what is and about not resisting. You know, a big aspect of Buddhism is impermanence and this idea that, you know, it's all temporary. And so emotions are the same way. If you're feeling down, it's not going to last. The reason why we get down on ourselves for feeling down is we typically fall into the story of we think it's going to last forever. We intellectually know it's not, but emotionally we kind of feel like it. It feels like, oh, I'm really depressed right now. And we lose hope for the future. And then we just sit in that depression. And so we kind of become more hopeless. And then that just drives it down. But when we go, you know what? Yeah, I'm temporarily experiencing some depressed feelings. I wonder why that is. Yeah, you know, it's because I had this goal and I had this and I didn't hit it. And it's because my family is having some hardship in this sense. And financially, we're having some hardships over here. Okay. It's like, well, what is it that I would love to happen instead? And again, I get that it might be challenging at times to even have these thoughts because when you're in a down space, you might not easily go to here. This is just, you might want to write it down, have a notebook next to you. So if you're depressed and you're not in the habit yet of asking yourself these more serving and empowering questions, you pull that notebook out, you pull that piece of paper out, you pull the note on your phone out. And it's just like, you know, you find some ways to dig yourself back out. But once you get used to doing that, you literally become unstoppable. Nothing can stop you because you don't allow yourself to be stopped. You move through everything, you grow through everything, you get stronger from it all. And the people who are the strongest, they usually have the things given to them by life that seem to be the most challenging. But it's because they can handle it. There are people who get given what you have and they break under that pressure. And you're still here. Might be hard, might feel like you're breaking, but you're not. You know, you're here and you can handle it. And there's things you can do to make it work. And it's one step at a time. Coupled with the compassion, again, I'm not alone. This isn't going to last forever. And that I can handle this. And I think that if we just all internalize those messages, it makes what we're going through now a lot easier. Because the opposite is what's causing the problem. The feelings of I am alone, no one understands, so I don't talk to anybody about it, so I hold it inside. So now I'm on that island. And like it's going to last forever, that there's no hope for that future, which is also going to bring us down. You combine those two things, that's a recipe for misery. But if you combine, I'm not alone, I'm going to go talk to people about this, I'm going to write about this, and then realizing, you know what, this is only going to be around for a short period of time. Let me be with it, and then let me take some steps to get out of it. And then those people that you're talking to that are also going through similar things or other hardships that you can just be human with, they help you through it as well. And so just, connection is so crucial.